in no particular order in answering the 5 questions. I absolutely agree with Senator Omar. Tokenism does not cure marginalization or discrimination. It does not, by putting somebody here or there. Actually, the way marginalization is normally about political representation and equitable share of resources. And these are issues that are addressed, if you look at the history of mankind, by organizing the distribution of those resources closer to the people. Whether you go to Switzerland, you go to America, wherever you go, they create these other units instead of having a centralized system of government. So the cure to this marginalization, I absolutely agree with you, is to create new counties or to create new other administrative units for central government to deal with that systemic issue. You will not solve it by appointing somebody to a position in central government. I absolutely agree with you. And that is what we are trying to address here.
Well said.
Yes. And then you see, Senator Cheriot has asked whether there are alternatives to creating new counties. The point is, this discrimination is both is historical, but also post-2010 constitution. There are 2 regions that I would like to flag out, Nyanza and Western Kenya. If you look at the way Nyanza and Western Kenya have been treated over the years, even before 2010 constitution, in terms of distribution of administrative units, what we used to call districts, and creation of constituencies, they've been shortchanged to a very large extent. To a very large extent. You can see Western Kenya is actually asking for 2 new counties. Yes? And Nyanza is also asking for 2 new counties. That were actually in the original 74. 3. That were 3. That were in the original 74. Yeah. And there's been a lot of historical injustice to those 2 regions, whether it's constituencies, or it is admin units, or it is counties. It is all about representation, which goes down with sharing of resources. Actually, the quest that you see the Kuria people ask, the Suba people and the Gucha people, is to address the systemic discrimination against Nyanza in terms of those units, which has been historical for a very long time, over 50 years. It is not about those 2. It's only that those are the 3 areas that can clearly fit in the description. So I think the alternative would not be new constituencies, if that was the idea. New constituencies would just be maybe to again address certain issues where geography or other difficulties, like the constituencies like Wajir, where you and Marsabit, where you can go for hundreds of kilometers before you see any government service. You know, those are the kind of issues. But we would not think of another alternative other than creating the counties. That is what we are seeing. Now, on the county boundaries bill, I will leave that to my colleague, Honorable Pukose. But before then, we have 2 other issues. Referendum, I want to deal with it last, because, Chair, you may allow me now to read the Constitution, so we all understand it.
Well, less than 5 minutes to wind.
Jurisdiction of NADOC. Jurisdiction of NADOC, NADCO, you have something called governance issues, including promotion of national unity and inclusivity. That is your mandate. And as a good lawyer, I will tell you, any instrument appointing anybody, there is always the omnibus clause. Anything that appertains or is closely affiliated or connected.
Well addressed.
You have jurisdiction.
Yes.
Yes. The final one, so that there's clarity, I want us to start with Article 188, please, if we have our constitutions. If you just look at Article 188, 1, that is page 120 of the Constitution. I don't know which version you have. 188, alteration, boundaries of counties. 188.1, boundaries of counties may be altered only by a resolution recommended by an independent commission set up for that purpose by Parliament. Are we together? And it is passed by 2/3 in both National Assembly and in the Senate. Then the boundaries of a county may be altered to take into account, these are the parameters you use, the 7 parameters. Population density and demographic trends. Yes? Physical and human infrastructure. Historical and cultural ties. The cost of administration. The views of the communities affected. the objects of devolution of government and geographical features. You don't have to satisfy all the 7. 1 is enough. 1 is enough. Under our Constitution. 1 is enough. Now, let us jump to Article 174 of the Constitution. Yeah? Let us start with 174. The objects of devolution. I want us to understand this very well, Honorable Wamilianga. Objects of devolution, we need to understand them. The objects of devolution of government are: 1, promote democratic and accountable exercise of power. To foster national unity by recognizing diversity. Yes? To give powers of self-governance to the people and enhance the participation of the people in the exercise of the powers of the state and in making decisions affecting them. To recognize the right of communities to manage their own affairs and to further their development. Welcome, Your Excellency. To protect and promote the interests and rights of minorities and marginalized communities. To promote social and economic development and the provision of proximate, easily accessible services throughout Kenya. To ensure equitable sharing of national and local resources throughout Kenya. To facilitate the decentralization of state organs, their functions and services from the capital of Kenya. And to enhance checks and balances and the separation of powers. Those are the objects. And if you want to amend that article, you go to a referendum. Principles of devolved government, Article 175. County government shall be based on democratic principles and separation of powers. County government shall have reliable sources of revenue. We have addressed those. And then Article 176, which is the structure now. There shall be a county government for each county consisting of county assembly and county executive. I think we have now understood those ones. Now let's go to 255, which was causing a problem. 255, and there are 2 there. 255, 1I. A proposed amendment to this constitution shall be enacted in accordance with Article 256 or 257 and approved in accordance with Clause 2 by a referendum, if the amendment relates to any of the following matters. And I is the operative one in our case. The objects, principles, and structure of devolved government. That is the only thing that requires referendum. So if you are amending Article 174, which is the objects, 175, which are the principles, structure, which is 176, then you go to a referendum. But by creating new counties, we are not amending those. We are not amending 174. We are not amending 175. We are not amending 176. We are giving them life. We are making them have legs. That is what we are doing. We are not amending the objects principle. Are we together? Yes. And then, if you go to 255.5, was it? No, 250. Yeah, I think that's the one. Eh? Or no, 256.5. 256.5. Because there's been confusion around that. If a bill to amend the constitution proposes an amendment relating to matters specified in 255.1, those matters, then there's a referendum.
Yes, we've had you, Mheshimiwa, and you've done a good job, I must admit. You've done a good job. So we will give Mheshimiwa Pukose only 1 minute because we have about 21 teams to see us today. And you are the first and you have taken about 45 minutes already.
Thank you, Chair.
Respectfully, 1 minute.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I wanted to respond to the issue raised by Honorable